Hey, I'm Jared Lanham, and this is Refiner's Forge. So maybe you've been watching some of my videos, maybe you haven't, maybe this is the first one. If it is, welcome, thank you. But you may have seen some of the tools I use, power hammer, press, got my big forge, multiple anvils, and maybe you have been interested in blacksmithing, but you have no idea where to start and think, how in the world can I afford or get all that equipment? It may surprise you, but I didn't start out with all that. So I thought I'd do a video, start a video series in doing like a shop tour. And this one I'm going to tell you kind of a little bit how I got started. So I'd been into woodworking quite a bit, and I was always fascinated with blacksmithing. I remember going to the state fair where I grew up in Alaska, and there'd be a blacksmith there, and I just want to stand there and watch him all the time. But it always was kind of a little intimidating to me. I didn't know where to, it was before the internet and stuff like that, so I didn't really know where to get into the trade or start as a hobby. And woodworking, there was a lot more information and just a lot more people did it. Anyway, so fast forward, and I've been in the National Guard, and I got accepted to go to flight school. And so I got to go to wonderful Fort Rucker, Alabama for a year and a half to learn to wiggle the sticks on a helicopter. And so I had to leave all my woodworking equipment behind while I went down there, and quickly found out I really needed something physical to do with my hands. And so with the internet and resources online, it's a lot more accessible, a lot easier to watch videos and kind of learn how to do it. But I thought I'd just give you an overview of how I started and kind of the basic tools I started out with. So my view of the 5 most important tools you need to start blacksmithing. So probably the first one is something to hit the steel on. So I guess you could go real primitive and get a rock, but that's probably not going to work very well for you. So a lot of guys start out with a piece of anvil, or a piece of railroad track, and that's pretty decent. But unless you have a way to cut a horn on it or something like that, that's something you don't really have a way to kind of turn and shape the metal like you would on a horn. So thought I'd show you what I started out with. Wonderful Harbor Freight style, even though I didn't buy it from Harbor Freight, I bought it online, but it's basically the same thing. I think I paid $70 for it. And I know it's kind of controversial. There's a lot of people on the blacksmithing forums are like, why waste your money, save up your money and get something. Quality tool. Spend your money on quality tool. I hear that all the time. And don't waste your money on junk. Well, when I was thinking about getting into it, I had a blacksmith that gave me some great advice. You wait until you can buy a proper anvil, you're probably never going to get in the hobby. so I went ahead and bought this cheap anvil, and you know what? It worked for me, and I wasn't forging heavy duty stuff on it, and yeah, it's a cast iron anvil, I guess, and it deformed the face and all, but I used it until I could afford to buy something else. So this was my first anvil, and now I'm super blessed. I have 5 sons, and so this is what they start out on. That's why it's on this lower stump here, and so they can mess around it, they can hit it. I don't care if it gets dented, so it's a good anvil for them to learn and start out on. So you may have access to get some railroad track or something like that. That might be better. I don't know. Railroad track doesn't have a flat face to it though. So, whatever works for you. I mean, just get something and just start hitting hot steel. So just get into it, and then later on you can spend some money if you like it and move up. So, and that's what I did. I started an Etsy page and started making a little money selling small stuff, hooks, bottle openers, stuff like that. And then I was able to afford my second anvil, which I'll show you in another video. So obviously after the anvil, you're hitting the hot steel on. The next thing you're going to want is a hammer to hit the hot steel with. As you can see on my anvil stand, I have a bunch of fancy hammers I forged myself, right? So Maybe we'll go over those in another video at some point. But even though I love forging with tools that I made myself, don't get into blacksmithing and think I gotta go online and buy a $150 rounding hammer to get started. It's not necessary. And personally, I love my rounding hammers, I love my other hammers I forged, and there's great hammer makers, tool makers out there you can buy from. This hammer is a 3-pound crossbeam that came from, I purchased at Tractor Supply, so, and it was like 17 bucks or something like that. So, honestly, this is a fantastic hammer. I mean, would I trade it for one of my hammers I forged myself, you know, and hardened and tempered? No, but overall, man, I can forge with this hammer really well. And as you get into blacksmithing, you'll find out it's more about your hammering technique than it is about having a fancy hammer. So not knocking the nice hammers. I like forging with them. They're great to have, but they're not necessary. So go to Tractor Supply or Lowe's. I recommend staying away from the rubberized handles. Those actually kind of will tear up your hands more than a nice smooth wooden handle. But it's personal preference, whatever you want. And then just round off the faces. You know, want to get rid of the sharp corners on the hammer. And you'll find that out, and you can take a file and file it, or flat disc on a grinder. So you need something to hit the steel on, and you need something to hit the steel with, and then unless you're working with a piece that's long enough that you can hold, you're going to need something to hold the steel with. And so what most guys start out with, if they don't go out and just buy something right away, is something like this, a pair of vice grips. You'll quickly find out just how inadequate these are. They work to get you started, and that's all that matters. You get started. Go down and buy a 4-pack of these at Harbor Freight for, what is it, 15 bucks or something like that. Use a 20% coupon, and they're Pittsburgh steel, so they're lifetime warranty. You break them, you take it back. Just as a disclaimer, I am not sponsored by Harbor Freight, but if they would like to sponsor me, I'd be all for it. But I just frequent the store a lot. So anyway, but I would recommend, if you have the money, spend 40 or 50 bucks and get a good pair of tongs. Now, these tongs I forged myself, but there's other, and you can find some cheaper ones. Actually, Wahlberg Forge on Instagram. He makes excellent tools at a really reasonable price, hammers, tongs, all that kind of stuff. I'll put a link in the description to him. I bought several like drifts and stuff from him, so great guy, really fast turnaround. I can't say enough about him and his business. Anyways, but these I forged myself. I recommend some. I by far use bolt tongs the most. For me, they're the most versatile, and this size is made for 3/8 and quarter. And so when you're starting out, that's probably the stock size you're going to use the most is 1/4 inch and 3/8. This will hold 1/4 inch round, 1/4 inch square, 3/8 round, 3/8 square. I'd get whether you get some wolf jaw tongs or bolt tongs like this, get some that will hold the 1/4 and 3/8 size to start out with. I think that's going to be the most versatile tongs for you starting out in blacksmithing. So tongs. So we got something to hit the steel on, something to hit the steel with, something to hold the steel, and we're going to need something to cut the steel. So if you don't buy your steel at Lowe's. I mean, if you have to, that's the only place to do it, yeah, but like Lowe's and Home Depot is really expensive. You can find a local welding shop or steel supplier. It is so much cheaper to buy like a 20-foot length of 1/4 inch round is not very expensive. Or a 20-foot length of 3/8 square is not, and you can forge a lot of stuff out, especially if you're forging small stuff, you can forge a lot of stuff out of that. So this is a cheap angle grinder, okay? Again, I'm not sponsored by Harbor Freight. But this is a Drill Master Harbor Freight angle grinder. And yes, I've burnt a few of these up. They're not super high quality tools, but you know what? You can get them on a coupon for 10 bucks. You know, and if you're not using them every day and doing heavy grinding, you can buy one of these and it'll last a while. Alright, so right up there with the anvil, probably one of the most important things is a forge, right? So you gotta have something to heat the steel with. And so you got a couple options. You got either gas or or coal, solid fuel, charcoal. I guess induction forge as well, but that's not very common, getting started out in it at least. But so, and a lot of that depends on what kind of work you're going to be doing and the availability of the fuel. So a lot of areas of the country, it's not economically reasonable to go with coal. Fortunately, where I'm at, I have a couple good coal sources, so it's a lot more economical for me to use coal than propane. And for a lot of the work I do, I really prefer coal, but you know, a lot of that's personal preference. So, but I do have gas forges as well for certain things. But so behind me, and we'll do this in another shop tour at some point. But I have a double-sided coal forge, side draft hoods made out of 55-gallon barrel. But obviously I didn't start there. So I did. So the first forge I started with was you can look it up online. It's called a Lively Forge, Lively, Lively Forge, and there's a lot of pictures online about it, and even some instructionals you can find. And anyways, it's made out of a wash tub, and use a black iron piece of pipe, and drill holes in it. And if you're going for a solid fuel, you can use it with charcoal or regular coal. Line it with a kitty litter sand mixture, as you know, in the wash tub, and you can use a hair dryer. And that's what I started out with, was a hair dryer for my fan. It's actually an excellent forge for if you're doing long axis stuff, like longer knives and things. So it's actually not bad. You could use that as your main forge, and I did for a good while. It's cheap to make, no welding involved, just basic drilling, just real basic tools to actually make it. I made it when I was in Alabama at flight school, and when I had very basic tools with me there, a drill and I think I bought an angle grinder, and that was about it. So you can make one of these with very basic tools. So like I said, you got something to hit the steel on, something to hit the steel with. Something to hold the steel, something to cut the steel, and something to heat the steel. And so that whole package there, you're looking about probably somewhere between $180 and $200 to get started. And you might even be able to get into it cheaper than that. You may already have a hammer. You already have a cross beam. You may already, have something to hit the steel on. Maybe you got a block of steel laying around or something like that. So, so what I found is, it's actually a lot less expensive if you can make a few things to get into blacksmithing than it is woodworking. All right, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and be absolutely fantastic if you share it. So this is the first in the series that I'm going to be doing on my shop. If you got any questions or anything I can help you with, let me know in the comments. And if there's anything in particular you'd like to see or have me explain, let me know that as well. And we'll see you next time at Refiner's Forge.